Welcome everyone to our Team Dare to Dream call, and I'm so excited to introduce you to my husband, Mr. John Baska.
Hello.
And this is the first time that he's been on a Zoom call with Team Dare to Dream, so it's pretty exciting. One of the themes that we have going on for this month is the push for the Emerald City, right? Emerald City, bling for everybody, green bling for all. And not only for those of you that are already Emerald, but for your coaches as well. So the more green, the better. I wanted John to come on and talk to you all about signing up your spouse as a coach, because I hear it over and over again. We teach this as a strategy for you to build your business, right? And a lot of times people don't understand. I get the
doing a live call right now.
I'm gonna mute everybody.
And you could.
So I wanted to have John talk about it, because I know that sometimes when you're talking to your spouses or your mother or whomever that significant other is in your life that you would like to join you in the business, that they don't always understand what role they're going to play in the building of your business, and that the activity that they do is really of their own desire. So I'm going to go ahead and let John do the talking. I've got some questions. I'm going to kind of interview him, and we'll just go from there. So my first question was, what was my work life like before I became a Beachbody coach?
Well, basically, her work life was, she would wake up 5:30 to 6 in the morning, get ready, go to work. She'd have to be there somewhere around the 7:30 to 7:40 range, and she would work all day, and she would get back home roughly around 6 o'clock at night. So there was very little time during the day to spend either talking. She was in and out of meetings all day long. It was basically a 6 to 6 job that happened day after day, week after week, year after year.
And what kind of demeanor did I have? What kind of mood did I have for the most part?
Well, it was pretty much the basic beatdown of any job that you have dealt with for years and years and years. The mood was, I hate going here, and the mood was, I hate everything about it, and it just got worse. The more it became a corporate structure, or the more that she was in the corporate structure, her mood, her just whole demeanor was, I don't want to say unpleasant, but unpleasant.
I told him that he could be honest. So let's talk about what you were doing. What were you doing, leading up to before Beachbody came into our lives?
Well, I spent many years in the transportation field, about 28 years in the transportation field, and I was in sales. And I was able to kind of, take care of my customers. My schedule was flexible. I was able to go into work or meet with customers at a later time. I could either stay later or I could get off earlier, just depending on the situation. And I did that for, like I said, 27, 28 years.
And then, but when I started Beachbody, you had already gone off on your adventure.
The one thing that I saw between myself of even being in the sales position, I felt that I was always reporting to somebody. Being in sales, when they had pagers a long, long time ago, I had a pager on me. Then we went to cell phones. But through my last, just say, 12 to 15 years, there was really only one time or twice that we were able to leave, and that was when we went on a cruise. And I didn't have to either check in with my boss or check in with customers or get calls from customers. And so I kind of felt, I felt between that and watching my wife go through the pain that she was going through, I was going to start my own business. And I started that back in 2004, and it was in the real estate world. And it was basically, I flip houses. I buy houses, I fix them up, and I sell them. And I did that since 2004 through present. But about 3.5 years ago, I left my job because it was getting in the way of my business. So right before all this, her moving out of the corporate world into her own business, I left my job.
Yeah, about 6 months before I did that. So when I first mentioned that I was interested in becoming a coach, let me go back and say we were introduced to Beachbody through P90X, and we bought it from the infomercial, and we did it together, and we loved it, and it really set us on a path for health and fitness. And I know I continue to do workout programs from Beachbody. And so when I first mentioned that I was thinking about becoming a coach, what were your thoughts?
Well, although I do take chances, I'm pretty much a very structured person. And when I found out that she was thinking about becoming a coach, it was exactly within a 6-month time frame, which to me, that's the same thing as saying to the date, because I look at things in years time span, if that makes any sense. I looked at this as I started a business. It was being successful. We talked for probably a year to almost 2 years on when I was going to leave my job and just do my business. I left my job. 6 months later, Deborah loses her job. So I went from being very, in my mind, being very stable as far from a financial position to being, when you start your own business, it's scary. And, we worked through it, and everything has turned out great. But for both of us, I was in my position for 27, 28 years. She was in hers for 20 years. And all within a 6-month time frame, I leave my job. She loses her job. She starts a new business. And it was extremely frightening for a while.
So like you said, before, I lost my job of 20 years, I had signed on to become a coach. And so I know when I signed on, I didn't really think I was going to do it full time. I mean, I thought maybe someday it would be really cool if, but I know when I first mentioned it to you, again, I was still working my job at the time. I mean, I know you said some things to me specifically about your thoughts about getting involved in a business like this and on top of everything else I was doing.
One of the biggest things that I had the luxury of doing was I was able to transition from one sales job to a business and over a few years period and build it up. And it seemed like it was just a natural transition. With Deborah, it was more of she was done with this job on this day, and she started a new business the next day. And the one thing that or several things, but the biggest thing I thought of was her going from going in to perform certain tasks at her job and knowing that she had to be at meetings or have reports or whatever the things that, she had to do during her daily routines, to now she had to go out and she had to basically work for herself. And sometimes that's, if you haven't been in that position before, sometimes that's in a very enlightening spot that you find yourself in.
So now I've gone from this secure job, and again, I had the insurance, I had the, regular income, and he was doing really well with his business. But, it's, got a different ebb and flow. Like you said, when I left my other job, it was very scary for us both. So even going back to the very beginning, tell me what your thoughts were when I suggested getting involved with a multi-level marketing company.
Well, it was scary because, as I said, you get to control your own business. I mean, it's not like every 2 weeks or every quarter or every, once a year you had an annual bonus or quarterly bonuses, things like that. And you knew those were pretty much coming. It was, you were starting from scratch and building from there, and which was okay. It's a great thing to do. But when you are forced in a matter of, a few months to go from knowing that you're going to be receiving a paycheck to starting at zero, I was just concerned that just because you've been used to the corporate world for so long, that I didn't know how it was going to play out for you.
John had been involved in some multi-level marketing companies before, when he was, at different stages in his life. So he was more familiar with that structure than I was. And, he cautioned me when I first mentioned it to him, just, from his knowledge that, it seems like I remember him saying, most people don't really, these don't really work for most people. And, I just thought, it's fun. And I don't know. I mean, I see people being really successful with it. I don't know if I will, but it was fun. And I think that's the biggest thing, like what John said, that I was in a point in my career where nothing was fun. I was not having fun every day at all. I was having the opposite of fun. And when I started doing Beachbody just as a little hobby, I was starting to have fun again. And I looked forward to getting up early, and I looked forward to, being able to connect and just, being with all the other coaches. That was just fun. It became a really fun part of my day. And I started to see things in a different way. I started to see, hope for the future, whereas I had been kind of hopeless before. So, his caution, I took it with for what it was, thinking, it's just, whatever it is, it is, it's no big deal. And I remember, so we're going to talk about, signing our spouse up as a coach. And so I signed up, and I got on the call with my sponsor, Kelly, and she was doing the Getting Started Right call with me, and I was probably any coach's worst nightmare, because I got on that call and I really didn't want to even be on that call. I was like, I'm not going to build this as a business. I really don't have time for this call. And I even told her that. I said, I'm really busy. I have a very important career, and I'm probably not going to do much with this. So, say what you got to say, and then we'll get off the call. But really soon after that, probably within less than 30 days, the bug really, really hit me. And I just really, it like took hold of my heart. And I wanted this. I was like, I want this. I want what these people have. It's a lot like what you guys are seeing and feeling, now even as you become a coach, you see, you have this kind of inside view of what other coaches are doing. And it's like, I want that. And so I started to dare to dream, which is why I named our team Dare to Dream. I started to dare to dream that things could be different. And so, one of the things that we talked about was getting to Emerald, right? And strategy, it's been done since the beginning of time, was, pick the, 2 people you want to be your +2. And so I mentioned that to John. And do you remember having any thoughts about when I said I wanted to sign you up as a coach?
Well, I didn't, as a coach, I really didn't look at it as coaching. I looked at it as being a partner in the business. And if I ever, if there were to be things down the road that I might be able to help you with, I would be right next to you, and we could, whatever I could help you out with, I would be able to do. But yeah, I thought all along, if you're going to do this, and I did understand the network marketing basics from a past business that I had been in, and actually Deborah was underneath me in the golf business that I was in years and years ago. Even though she never played golf, she never, I don't even think she's even swung the club, but she was in the business, and everything, from a business aspect, everything that we did related to that business. Not only was I able to take the business expenses and business aspects, but she was also able to do that also. Mm-hmm. So that just made it cleaner for both of us at that point.
It's really interesting. John actually understood, I think, more about why it was important to put him in the business. He understood it better than I did. And I remember him saying to me, if you're going to do this, be sure and put me in the best spot, so that, that spot is positioned to be another revenue stream. And that's basically what it is when you sign up your spouse. It's, it's kind of like, well, do you want to have one revenue stream, or do you want to have 2? Well, doesn't any business want to have more than one revenue stream, right? And so, that's what we did, and that's what we've done. And, as far as what John does in the business, do you get into your online office and do stuff?
I do every once in a while when I'm personally looking for things, but my whole attitude is shifting in the business also. So, and I guess what that takes me back to is that me being in the business from the get-go, it wasn't that I was trying to build my own business or anything like that. What I understood is that it opened doors, so that no matter what I did if I wanted to stay in the real estate business, whatever I wanted to do, that there was going to be a door. Don't know what the door was going to open to, but there was a door there that I could open up anytime I wanted to, whether it be 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, or whatever. So that's the way that I looked at it. Is it's not just being in the business, it's opening opportunities for someone down the road, because you just never know what what is going to happen these days. I mean, businesses change, whole, economies shift from one, segment to another. And I don't think it's like the years past where people stay in a job. Not all of them. The majority of them don't stay in a job for 20 and 30 and 35 years and all of a sudden get a retirement. You have to build and build and build.
So, like John said, he understood that was basically, it's opening a door. It was reserving a spot. And we've actually done that with our oldest son. So he has a spot in the business. And my mother, as I said, she was my second +2. She has a spot on the other side. So she and John are in equal spots in my business. And, thinking about it from a retiree's perspective, I mean, my mother, again, she's, doesn't do anything involved with coaching other than drink Shakeology, and she loves it. And she supports me, of course, but she has this amazing revenue stream from Beachbody, and she hasn't had to do anything to do that. And so that's a really nice gift that I can, put that out there for her. In the same way with Austin, our son, he's got that spot. So whenever he's ready, or if he's ready, then he's got an income stream that's already being built for him. I wanted to show you kind of what this looks like. And so we've talked about teamwork makes the dream work. So you are the coach. Let's say you're the person that signed up and you've got your 2 legs, right? And all of the coaches that are showing up underneath your organization from yourself or from other coaches, right? That's your team. That's your volume, right? And so some of you aren't there yet, and some of you are, where you're starting to see the accumulation of volume. And what happens is, as an emerald, that's when you start getting paid on that volume that's underneath both of your legs, right? Well, if your spouse is right here, and maybe he's here because maybe, our team is growing so fast, maybe there's a couple of coaches in between you and him. That's okay. It's no big deal. Your spouse is here. Now, all this volume that you're getting paid on this leg, when he becomes emerald, which I made John an emerald, right? I control that. I signed up 2 coaches under him, and he's an emerald. Now his business is getting paid on all that volume too. So now we have a second revenue stream, right? And so when we talk about signing up your spouse, especially, if they're not wanting to work the business, then you are actually working that business for them. So when I build John's business center, I am him. And if you look at his Team Beachbody profile page, it has a picture of both of us. And I think it says Team Baska or something like that. So that any customers that are his, they'll see both of us there and they won't be confused, right? And when I sign coaches up under him, then I just merely, I sign them up with his coach ID, just like I do with my coach ID. If I decide I want to put them under my mom's business center, I do the same thing. So I control all of that. And it's really nice because, again, that gives us more revenue streams that we control directly. It gives us more opportunities to grow our income. And trying to think what else. So does anybody have any questions just about the logistics of, how do you work your spouse's business center? I know Stephanie, raise your hand, wave your hand. She's like, what? She signed up in late December, and she was just sharing with me that you've already made your husband an emerald? Yes. And his business center has already made almost $300. So second revenue stream.
I made him an emerald like within a week.
Yeah.
I didn't understand anything about it, but Patty told me, she sent me some training videos and said, go ahead and, make him an emerald. So I did and got him to Success Club. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, and now I get it, now I understand it better. And it is nice because he's up there and I've added coaches underneath him. So he'll soon cycle. Because I actually just added another coach under him. So there's 3. So
yeah. It's hard to visualize before you actually really start cycling. And so I want to show you something. I'm going to share the screen with you so you can see into his business center. And I'll show you what we're doing here. So let's find it. Oh, here it is. So this is John's business center. So this is his online office. And notice that he makes Success Club as well. And again, that's, that's something that I do. Again, right now, John, being 3.5 years into the business, John, like he said, he has a different approach to the business now. I mean, we really are partnering and doing this together. But when it started out, I mean, again, I was working the business. He was my shoulder to cry on. He was my rock of Gibraltar, my voice of reason, but he didn't actively do anything with the business. So, like I said, now that I'm at where I'm at, I make sure that he makes Success Club every month. He's a diamond coach. That means we get those leads underneath his account. That means when we go on our trips, he, like for Cancun, he earned a room and I earned a room. Well, that's really sweet because now we can take our teenage kids and they don't have to sleep with us, which is a real big plus. So this is his online business center. And I want to show you his commissions. So you can see what we've been able to do. Keep getting messages. So if we go all the way back to the beginning, so let's see, I signed up mid 2011. I signed up John, right away, but I didn't do anything with his business right away. So you can see that here's in February. February is when I became a diamond coach, right? So I signed up in June of 2011. I became a diamond in February of 2012. So that's kind of coincidental that that's about the time that I made him an emerald. And so you can see that now he immediately started earning money on his account. And if you look and see, this was probably, yeah, so these were 2 coaches that I placed under him. That's what that fast start bonus is. So he got, the commission off of that. Well, here he cycled for the first time. That's his first cycle, $14, because now he's starting to accrue volume. You don't start accruing volume until you're an emerald, right? So then you can start to see now, didn't take very long, and this is weekly income. It didn't take very long for him to start getting a regular paycheck. And I remember the first time at 125, I was like, a week, multiply that times 4, that's pretty significant income that, we were kind of leaving on the table because I didn't make him emerald right away like Stephanie did. I mean, all these zeros, that could have been income, right? So, and just look at the way his business center has grown, week after week. Let's, pop ahead to, okay, so right here, about a year later, January of 13, now look at how significant his income is. And this might have been about the time I made him a diamond. I can't quite remember. But so now he gets a larger cycle bonus commission, right? And he gets, and my team is growing. Team Dare to Dream is growing. And so, again, weekly income, where now you look at where he's at. I mean, now he's gone from $200 to $300. Now we're up here $400 to $500 a week. And, so on and so on, now 5, 6, 2 weeks where he's business made over $1,000 of a week. And again, John, for all intents and purposes, I am placing the customers under his account. I am placing coaches, but, I only do that when I need to, right? So most of this, let's just look at it. I made him a diamond, yes, but that $900 is team bonus. That's volume. That's the volume he's getting paid on. These numbers here, that's retail commission. So, he has customers because he gets leads, right? So he has customers that are assigned to him as well. So, that's the second revenue stream in our business. And if you look at my mom's account, she was my second +2. Hers is just like this on the other side. So that's why it's so important to, if we would have waited to sign John up until I already had a big business, then he would have been underneath all of this volume, right? And we want him to be on top of that. We want his spot secured. So, even before we did anything actively with his business, we had that prime real estate spot secured for him. And so that's really, the information that we wanted to share. And I'm going to open it up now for questions. I'm unmuting you all. Actually, I'm muting you all back. If you want to talk, please unmute yourself so that we don't have that kind of feedback. Somebody needs to ask a question. That's always required when we get on these calls. Or make a comment.
Okay, I'll ask.
Okay.
When you make, I actually just asked Patty this. When you make your husband or whomever emerald, for them to cycle, they don't have to hit Success Club, right?
Correct.
They just have to be emerald.
Right.
Okay. So they only get leads and stuff once they're once they make Success Club.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's important to remember too that for any emerald, you start accruing volume when you hit emerald, and it carries over, right? So even if you don't have enough volume, perhaps a cycle, it carries over from week to week and it accumulates. If you lose emerald status, even for 1 week, you go back to 0. So that's why it's really important to not lose your rank once you've hit it, because you don't want to go back to 0. I was also going to say too that to sign up a coach, obviously they need to be in active status. And active status does not mean they're actively working the business. It means they have personal volume on their account, and they need a minimum of 50 PV. They don't have to have Shakeology. They have to have 50 PV. The 50 PV can also come from a customer, just like it can with you. So sometimes you might say, well, I'm going to sign a customer up under my husband so that's his PV. And then you as a family don't have to buy anything on his account. The other thing that we do as a family is anything that we need other than the one Shakeology that I get so that I can always make Success Club, that requirement, anything else we order under his account, because now we're getting volume. So, we're getting I get my Derm exclusive, our Energy and Endurance, our P90X bars. That's volume that now I get paid on, right? So if I buy it from myself, I get nothing. I just get the discounts. If I buy it from John, now I get, my business center gets the volume, which helps me get cycle volume bonus. So that's just, again, it's a strategy that is really going to help you if you want to build a business. If you really do want to build a business that makes you a nice income, or even just a nice hobby income. I mean, it's just nice to have that prime real estate filled by one of your loved ones, so that you can both, it stays in the family.
So even if you put somebody in that spot and you don't get them to emerald right away, like you did your husband, you can eventually work their business, but they maintain that spot.
Yeah.
So that when they get to emerald, then they start cycling with the okay.
Yeah, when I was working on my business, I didn't make John an emerald right away, because I was really wanting to secure my business and make sure that when I signed up coaches, they were under my account so that I would always be secure. Once I hit Diamond, I would have plenty of coaches. I wouldn't have to worry about one going inactive and losing that status. Kind of in retrospect, now I do talk to you all about making your spouse emerald. It's which way you want to go. Making him an emerald sooner, I would probably do that now, because again, I didn't even realize how much money that we were leaving on the table. And the same way with my mom, I did her business way after his, and almost immediately she was like making $250 the very first week that and it was like, oh my gosh, all this money I was leaving on the table by not, just doing, signing up 2 coaches under her. That's all it took. And I know if you're a new coach, you're like, wow, 2 coaches, that's easy for you to say. But let me rest assured that that you will definitely get there. You just keep doing just like Stephanie did. She did exactly what her sponsor told her to do. Patty, which has been a great student and has always done what I've suggested she do. So just keep following the advice that we're giving you, and it will work. Anybody else have any questions? I know, Megan, you just signed up your spouse. Anything we can help you with there?
I don't think so. My sister's on the call. I don't know if she has any questions for you. I don't know if she'll speak up or not.
Okay. Kelly's the silent one over here. All right, well, I've given you a lot to think about, and thank you, honey, for being on our call. And I know once you think about this, you may have additional questions, or maybe you want to ask them privately. So just message me or message your sponsor, and we'll get those questions answered for you. And thanks for getting on the call tonight. See you later.
Good night.